in the context in which there is no recommendation that I can make the selection. That was, that was my belief then.
Where in the procurement code or the law reinforce what you just said?
If you take a look at 103D-303, award shall be made to the responsible offeror whose proposal is determined in writing to be the most advantageous, taking into consideration price and the evaluation criteria set forth in the request for proposals. No other factors or criteria shall be used in the evaluation. The contract file shall contain the basis on which the award is made.
The fact that Mr. Liu knew that the document was required and it wasn't in the time at posting, then in your opinion, as the contracts officer, Ms. Harada, that was a violation?
Yes.
Okay. And the fact that he knew, then it's an intentional knowing violation.
If he did know, yes.
He must have read the law to cite it.
It doesn't say based on numbers given to the, it doesn't say that.
Whatever scores come out of that is the scores.
Yes.
And that they cannot say, even though this is the score, we're selecting the second or the third.
I read the procurement code. When I took my job as a DBED director, there was a lot of things I had to get up to speed on. Believe me, government is very much about processes. I read the procurement code, and I talked to people.
The procurement rules allow in the RFP process either the selection to be made by a procurement officer or an evaluation committee. If it's an evaluation committee, the ability to approve.
Just approve,
Yes.
not select.
Yes.
Okay.
In all my past communications, until I was told that I was wrong with the state procurement officer, is that I felt I wasn't bound by the numbers, even if there were numbers.
But the state procurement officer did say you were wrong in your understanding.
After the fact.
I'm the president of the Hawaii Strategic Development Corporation, which is an attached agency to DBED. I asked the DBED contracts officer, how would the decision be made? And I was advised that the ultimate authority for the award of the contract is the director of the department, because ultimately he will sign the contract or not. And I said, well, what would happen if the director decided not to approve the selection of the evaluation committee? Would he then have the right to make his own selection, or would the process then start all over again? And I was advised that the director, if he did not approve of the evaluation committee's recommendation, it would have to start all over again, that he would not have the right to make a choice. And that was my understanding in
And
discussion with the
Contracts officer was whom? at the
Eileen
time?
Harada.
Okay. So this was back in 2006.
It was before the RFP was released. It was at the time we were putting it together.
When this thing first blew, I was really surprised. I mean, it reversed, for me, 5-6 years of understanding.
Right.
It reversed for me, and it reversed for some of my staff, 20 years of understanding.
This memo, if you look on the footnote on the very bottom, it says DBED and ASO and Contracts Office indicate that this has been the interpretation and practice for as long as they can remember. Did you ever indicate that? The Contracts Office ever indicate that this has been the practice and interpretation?
No.
It's never been your office, right?
It's not the view that the office, as I've known it, has taken.
Okay. Then it goes on to say, contract files indicate that this has been the interpretation of practice for at least the past decade. Do your files indicate this?
As long as I've been there and I'm aware, no, that's not been the practice.
And you sent this out on September 14, 2006 to all the division heads and agencies and saying these procedures are immediately in effect. Please add the attached document to your standard operation procedures manual.
Based upon the evaluation by the selection committee on the best and final offers, a new ranking will be determined and an offer will be made to the #1 ranked bidder.
Does this conflict with your belief and practice that you've told us time and time again?
It appears to, yes.
Aaron Fujioka, who said, that's not a correct interpretation. And we asked Aaron, where do you find your interpretation? I will reverse the question to you. Nowhere in the procurement statute or rules, nowhere, does it say the award has to be made based on numerical scorings or rankings or any recommendation from the evaluation committee.
But your knowledge of the procurement law requires them to have the numerical recommendation.
My understanding is that they need to come up with a recommendation.
Okay. Could the committee have recommended to the director any other one but the highest ranking?
No, it should have been based on their numerical ranking.
It's based on the numerical ranking. Okay, that's always been your understanding.
Yes.
And you also said that they could not come up with any other selection but the highest numerical.
It should be based on their score sheets.
You stated earlier that the committee did not make a recommendation.
You heard that from Mr. Katlinger and Mr. Parks, and you heard that from Mr. Cox?
Because the ranking is explicit. To me, a ranking is as close to a recommendation as you could get. I don't know why you would need anything more than a ranking.
I heard Mr. Tatlinger repeatedly state that he based his decision on the addendum. If I could ask you again, who prepared the addendum?
You know, Senator,
Okay.
see, here we go again. I don't know.
Okay.
It was an error. It was, according to the procurement officer, in error. I take responsibility for that error.
Okay.
I do not think it's inconsistent. The director will have the ultimate decision on whether the award will be made to the organization with the highest point total. So they can come to me with somebody with the highest point total, but I still have the ultimate decision to decide whether that award is made.
Right, I think it's very clear from our discussions with the person who made the statement on the tape, who was then later or at some point was removed or her authority was diminished. You had the right to approve the committee's selection. Is what I heard on the tape, was what I heard the contract officer testify to earlier.
The code reads, it goes to the number one bidder, or the director has the option of rejecting it in its entirety with, some justification for rejecting it because of a flaw in the process. It doesn't give you options as far as how you can make the selection. The options as far as how you make the selection should be laid out in the evaluation criteria.
And I have not seen yet any statement from the committee that they said, we don't have a recommendation.
Where on this letter does it say there's no recommendation?
It doesn't say that explicitly on this memo.
So clearly, it doesn't say you had no recommendation. And from everybody who's seen this, including the PO, all say, including Ken Kitamura, under oath, said this was a recommendation. So the committee did, in fact, make a recommendation.
Well, that's what I interpret from that letter
Okay.
that Maurice Kaya had said.
Okay, so under oath, you're saying that that is a recommendation.
Yes.
I've seen a statement from the committee that ranked their recommendation, and they have somebody at the top. So I see a proposal. Do you have anything in writing from the committee where they say, gee, we couldn't come to a decision and we have no ranking, and so therefore we're not going to be offering any opinion or recommendation?
Well, you all keep contrast this. You keep asking us to contrast this with precedent. When-
No, I'm asking a simple question. Was there anything from the committee that
Yes,
says
this
we
memo.
do not have a ranking to offer?
Yes. It's that memo of July 31st.
I don't see anywhere where they say we have no recommendation.
There's nowhere that says there's a recommendation.
That letter that Maurice Kaya sent to the director listing Kolohala, that was a recommendation.
Yes.
Yes.
This is the committee ranked the proposals in the following order. So they have a top-ranked proposal.
They have a ranking, but they don't have a...
Thank you, Chair.
Item 9, based upon the evaluation by the selection committee on the best and final offers, a new ranking will be determined and an offer will be made to the number one ranked bidder.
Who was the number one ranked bidder?
Kohala.
Kolohala was the number one.